Hello, and welcome to another episode of the PS We Expire podcast. I am your host, Morgan Motzinger, and today our episode is all about confidence. One of the big things that people search for online is how to become more confident, how to gain more confidence. And that is what we are diving into today on this episode. Before we get into the episode, though, I want to invite you to explore and join me for my new program called A Course in Confidence. This is an 8-week hybrid of coaching and a course. So I have taken dozens and dozens of courses, and I have invested in personal coaching and professional coaching over the years. And I have kind of picked through what has worked really well for me and what hasn't, and am combining them into this great 8-week program where I want to help you develop more confidence. Now, I'm going to go into kind of what the framework of gaining more confidence and building confidence is in this episode. And in this group coaching program, it's going to be fleshed out even more. Not only are we going to be having our group calls, but we're also going to have a couple of individual calls so that you and I can discuss how to infuse confidence into your personal life. We also are going to be having a buy one, invite one, which I'm really excited about this, which there's two things about this. It makes it a little bit more affordable because you can share the cost with a friend. But even if you don't, even if you pay for it yourself and just want to invite a friend to do it with you, the power of this, not only having accountability with someone else, but it's so nice to go into a group and already know someone that is interested in investing in themselves and doing this kind of work. So it's a buy one, invite one where you pay for it and then the other person can have access to everything that you have access to. So this is going to be a small group. It's probably going to be capped at like 20 to 30 women. And it's like I said, it's over 8 weeks. So we're going to have weekly calls and homework to do in between so that we're not just stuffing our heads full of more knowledge, but that we are actually putting these things into practice, because I know that so many of you have really big dreams, really big goals for yourself, or maybe some of you even just have an inkling that there's something more for you in life, but you're not totally sure what that is. You don't have clarity around that yet. So this course, this coaching program is going to help with that. So where you can go is morganmotsinger.com/confidence. And I'm also going to put the link in the show notes. You can find it through Instagram, of course, in my bio there. Super easy to track down where to learn more about this, including price, schedule, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to be starting in September. So now is the time to enroll before we get totally full with everybody, because like I said, it's going to be a small group. So before we get into the episode, I just wanted to invite you to join me for A Course in Confidence. So head to my website to sign up for that, or click the link in the show notes below. So thank you for joining me for this episode. I'm really excited to bring this information to you and give you some actionable steps to become a more confident person. So thank you for being here. I am so glad that you are. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk with you about confidence today. So the reason I think why I am most excited to bring this episode to you is because when we feel confident, when we feel sure of ourselves, when we feel sure about the things that we want to do in the world, big impact is made. People's lives are changed, including our own. And so what I want to talk about today is not only what exactly is confidence, why do we want confidence, how do we gain confidence, but also what's the internal work that has to come? Because I'll just say right at the outset, like, I don't believe in fake it till you make it. I will talk a little bit more about doing things scared, which is, I think, sometimes what people are saying when they say fake it till you make it. But we'll talk about imposter syndrome. We'll talk about exactly what it means to move through hard things and feeling everything that comes up, because this is a huge part of becoming a confident person. Okay, so first and foremost, why do we want to be more confident? I mean, that may seem like a really kind of like no-brainer question, but I think many, many people think, I want to be more confident, but we don't have a reason in our minds why. Why do we want to be more confident? What's the point? Why couldn't I just go through life not being confident? Why do I want to be confident? What is the big driving factor for me to want to be more confident? Now, some of us, it's because we have things on our minds that we want to do, but our lack of confidence is stopping us. But I think what we're really talking about, what many, many people are talking about, is how do I stop feeling a certain way? How do I stop feeling scared? How do I stop feeling like an imposter? How do I stop feeling nervous? How do I stop feeling anxiety? How do I stop having, sweaty armpits and a flushed face when I'm doing something that I don't feel confident in? How do I become more confident so I can stop feeling those things? So we're going to get into that in this episode today. But first, I want to say confidence is definitely an inside job. It doesn't matter what other people say to you about how great you are, about the amazing work that you're doing, or the things that they can see how you're showing up in the world. All of that will be falling on deaf ears if you don't actually believe that for yourself. So confidence has to start from the inside. It's kind of like a woman who doesn't believe that she is beautiful. It doesn't matter how many people tell her that she is stunning, that she is gorgeous, that she is beautiful. If she doesn't actually believe that for herself, there's no amount of flattery or compliments that are going to change how she feels about herself on the inside. So when we talk about things like gaining confidence, this isn't about like writing mantras down. This isn't necessarily even about like affirmations. This isn't about having other people say great things to you about you, like setting up like, okay, on Tuesday at 2:00, you always have to call me and tell me how amazing I am. This has to be an inside job because it doesn't matter what's coming to you from the outside. If you don't believe it, you're not going to hear it and you're not going to believe it. So this confidence is strengthened when we know our values, when we have a clear vision for ourselves, when we have beliefs about ourselves that align with what's coming from the outside. When we know what we want our life to look like and we have a clarity of purpose, that is what is going to bring us confidence. So the number one way to build confidence is to gain clarity on your values. So I shared this on Instagram the other day, and it's just this like really kind of simple metaphor of if you are walking down the sidewalk with your kid and you're having a great time and you see a dog just ahead of you and the dog starts barking and coming at your child. In that moment, you're not going to have this thought of, I wonder what breed that dog is. Or you think, oh yeah, I've been thinking about, I really want to get a dog. I think now's a great time to think about getting a pet. And what kinds of supplies do I need to have? And where should I get this dog from? You have zero of that in that moment because your primary objective, your goal, your value, your deep value that is driving your behavior is protecting your child. So you are so clear on what you need to do in that moment that aligns with the most important thing to you, that you don't have any other thoughts in the way between the understanding and the action. So I know that's like obviously like a very simplistic way to think about confidence. But if you become clear on your values, if you become clear on your purpose in life, if you become clear on the things that are most important to you, you will become a very boundaried person and you will become very, very confident because there isn't going to be fear that stands between you and the thing that you want, the fear that is so big that blocks you from doing it. When you are so sure about the end point that you want to get to, it doesn't matter how much pain you have to go through to get it. So this is the number one big builder of confidence. This is the number one way to gain confidence, is to get very, very, very clear on your values. When you are clear on your values, again, it doesn't matter what is standing between you and that thing. You are going to go through any amount of pain in order to achieve that. It's a really obvious example, I know, with your kids because that wiring is intrinsic to us to protect our children. And what I would suggest to you is that you do some of the work to really just dig deep. And you can even go online and do like a values quiz where you can say, like you go through this step and they'll tell you different things that you could value, and you can choose which ones are more important than others and get a list of your, top 5 values. And you can see how your goals, how your behaviors, how your choices align with those values. And then that's a great way to be able to do some of that work to adjust and change things in your life to align with those values. So for instance, if you say that one of your values is living to, having a good life even into old age, as much as possible, having good, body brain health, then you will be able to see in your life the choices that you're making that are not going to contribute to that value. So it may be the way that you are moving your body now, or the ways that you're not keeping your mind sharp now, that you can see are going to affect your long-term goals of having, longevity and a good life down the road. That's going to help give you a lot of confidence in the choices that you make now in service of that long-term value or goal. If you're thinking about this in terms of like your career, your business aspirations, this is a really great exercise to think about. Okay, what if my business was 5 times bigger than it is now? What processes, what choices would I be making as a bigger business to make sure that things are flowing smoothly, make sure that everybody is aligned with the purpose and the mission and the values of my company? So even if you're just a solopreneur, you have a side hustle right now, but you have a goal of being a bigger company or serving more people or having more clients, you can start to think now about how to align yourself with a bigger business. That right now, developing those skills where it's just you, is going to give you more confidence going forward. So the first thing, step number 1, is gain clarity on your values. This is going to be the best exercise that you can do to start to develop more confidence. Okay, number 2, internal work. Here's the number 1 thing when it comes to internal work is, what is your internal dialogue? So I shared the example of the beautiful woman who, when people tell her that she's beautiful, she doesn't believe it. My guess is because her internal dialogue tells her that she's not. So if your internal dialogue is telling you, you can't do this, whatever this thing is that you want to do, you can't do this, everybody's going to laugh at you, everybody's going to stare at you, you're going to look like an idiot, you don't know what you're doing, you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not personable enough, you're not confident enough, whatever. Your internal dialogue is going to be your number 1 self-saboteur. That's the number 1 killer of your confidence, is your internal dialogue. There have been a lot of techniques that I've shared on this podcast about how to become more aware of your internal dialogue, but I want to offer 2 things. So the first one is, you can ask yourself this pretty regularly, especially, it's the easiest to notice when you make a mistake. Even a really simple mistake, like you forgot to, for hours, you forgot to move the stuff from the washer into the dryer, or days maybe, and it smells terrible and you have to run it again. Okay. What is your internal dialogue there? Are you telling yourself, oh my gosh, you idiot, like you always forget to do this. You never remember to do this. Why can't you remember to do this? In those moments, it's probably the easiest to catch yourself. And what I want you to do is think about whether or not you would say any of those things to your bestie. Would you say any of those things to your best friends? Would you say those things to your children? Why are you saying those things to yourself? You are killing your confidence because of the way that you're talking to yourself. So I want you to get really clear on that. So think about if you would say those things to a best friend. And the other way to get really clear on what you're thinking about is to just take some time to journal. And I would do this if you're feeling a lot of big emotions come up, or you're kind of stuck in swirling thoughts. If you have a lot of anxiety that's coming up, you have a lot of, you can just feel yourself in this thought spiral, I want you to get out a piece of paper and just start writing those thoughts down, because there are sometimes things that just kind of simmer below the surface. These thoughts and this internal monologue that simmers beneath the surface that we're not always aware of until we can write it down and we actually see it in front of us. And then we gain a lot of clarity on, oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize that I was saying these terrible things to myself. And you can start to choose to do it differently. So that's the second thing, is the internal work, paying attention to your internal dialogue. The third one, and I mean, these are all my favorites, but this is a really important one, is you need to start keeping commitments to yourself. So many people, men and women, will sacrifice their own needs on the altar of selflessness. Many men and women will consistently put other people first to the detriment of their own mental, physical, spiritual well-being. We have this backwards idea that the person who is the most loving will completely wring themselves out for other people. And I have experienced this myself, and I see this over and over again with other people, that if you do not prioritize your care, your own care, not only is nobody else is going to do that for you in the same way that you will do that for yourself, but you also are going to get completely burned out and probably get sick. So you have to start prioritizing your care. And I don't mean like a spa day, and I don't mean necessarily that if somebody really needs you, that you say, no, I'm sorry, like I have to go do this other thing, I have to go to the gym, or I have to, do whatever. Always. It's not about that, but it is about developing habits that you commit to and you keep in service of your overall well-being. When you put things on the calendar that are for you, you are probably going to have an easier time keeping those commitments. This is going to be really difficult when you are used to not prioritizing your own needs and when other people are not used to you prioritizing your own needs. So there's going to be an adjustment period when you freak out a little bit when something comes up that you say no to in order to keep the commitment to yourself. I would recommend that you start small. Now, this is actually number 4, is to do the big hard things in small doses. So I'll tie these together. So when you start keeping commitments to yourself, all I want you to do is pick one small thing that could be the first domino in the bigger goals for yourself. So if you have a goal to work out more consistently, what you need to do is start putting on the calendar things like 5 minutes of walking, or put on the calendar, put on your workout clothes. I know that sounds really kind of dumb and simplistic, but there's something bigger here that's going on. This isn't in those moments. If you say every morning for 1 week at 8:30 a.m., I'm going to put on my workout clothes. It doesn't even matter if you go to the gym. What you're doing is you're training your brain to start thinking differently. You're training your brain to start keeping those commitments to yourself. You're training your brain what to expect when you say that you're going to do something and you do it. This is why this is such an important confidence builder, is because you are training your mind that you can trust yourself. We are very, very good at deciding to do things that we know are good for us, that we know are good for our business, that we know are good for our relationships, and then we don't do them. We cancel them, we put them off, we procrastinate, we ignore, we change our minds consistently over and over and over again. If you were in a relationship with someone who did that to you all day, every day, you would never make plans with them because you would know that you can't trust them. And we do this to ourselves all the time. So if you want to gain confidence, you have got to start keeping your commitments to yourself. And no one can tell you what those commitments need to be. But keep in mind, like I said, that you are not, it's not necessarily just about the small step that you're taking. It's more so about what you are training yourself to do when you continue to do those small steps. So I think it's a good idea to, make that small step part of a larger goal. But you could do something if you're really just interested in training your brain and training your mind to start trusting yourself, to start doing what you say you're going to do. You could put something very off the wall in your calendar. So, at 12:05 every day, I'm going to stop and I'm going to say this one sentence and I'm going to take a deep breath. It doesn't even matter. It just matters that you will keep commitments to yourself. And when you do this, not only are you going to find that it helps you think bigger, because suddenly your brain is going to collaborate with you more to say, oh, okay, I see. Now that you are keeping commitments to these small things, like what are the bigger things that we are going to be able to accomplish? And it also is going to give you so much confidence that you are going to do what you say you're going to do. Now, the last thing, the fifth step is that you have to learn how to really accept whatever feelings come up when you do or don't do something. So I mentioned this in the beginning about how it feels, how often we are trying to be more confident because we want to stop feeling whatever we're feeling. I think a really great example of this is, and which most people will understand and resonate with, is how it feels to have to speak in front of people. So whether that's in your job or in a class or for whatever reason, you get up at a parent teacher meeting or whatever, and you have to speak in front of people. It's like the number one thing that people are afraid of. And what people are asking, if we're going to talk about something like public speaking, is how do I become more confident in public speaking? What we're really asking is, how do I stop feeling like shit when I have to do a public speech? How do I stop feeling my heart race? How do I stop feeling this cotton mouth? How do I stop feeling this constriction in my throat? How do I stop feeling like my face is on fire when I have to do something like this? So and here's the secret. The secret is you don't have to stop feeling those things to become a confident person. You just have to learn to let yourself feel them. I know, I wish it was something different. I wish it was like, here's how you be more confident and you stop feeling that stuff. But if you are committed to your own personal growth, you can expect that that's how the rest of your life is going to go, because you will always come up against something that you don't know how to do. If you're committed to your own development, if you're committed to gaining skills, learning new things, there's always going to be a period of embarrassment because you don't know how to do that thing yet that you're learning how to do. And the sooner that you can just accept that, the sooner that you can look that reality in the face and say, okay, I can recognize that this new thing that I'm doing, I'm going to feel super uncomfortable doing it. Sometimes I'm going to feel like an idiot. Sometimes other people are going to tell me I look like an idiot. Sometimes I'm going to be so concerned about how I look to other people that I'm doing this, that it's just going to feel really terrible. And I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway because I am so clear that what I want on the other side of that discomfort is worth it, that I will go through that thing and I will be uncomfortable in all the many ways that that feels like in order to get that thing. So I suspect that many people, when they say fake it till you make it, this is probably what that means, is that regardless of how you feel, that when you do that thing anyway, you will gain confidence. Now, I will put a little caveat in here that has to do with imposter syndrome. So many people will say, even if you feel like an imposter, you should do that thing. And there are two kind of important pieces that I want to address here. Is sometimes you feel like an imposter because you are, again, like not paying attention to that internal dialogue. You're not recognizing the skills that you do have and that you are qualified for that. That's truly what imposter syndrome is. The other type of imposter syndrome that kind of gets thrown around is you don't feel confident about it, and you shouldn't feel confident about it because you haven't developed the skills yet to be good at that thing. So in an effort to become better at something, again, recognize that it's probably going to feel terrible sometimes as you do that, but that is how you develop the skills to not be an imposter anymore. Because I think about this when I first started my design business. I was just like I was a baby business owner, a baby designer, and I, in pursuit of understanding how to be better at my job, how to serve my clients better, I became part of a lot of coaching groups and took a ton of courses, learned a lot of things from seasoned designers. And many of them had said, you need to charge X amount of dollars because that's kind of the going rate for designers. And I never felt good about that because I knew that my skill level didn't actually match up with the skill level of these other designers that were charging a higher fee than me. So as I built my business and I developed my skills and I became a much better designer and a much better business owner, I was able to increase my rate in tandem with my skill set. So that's a really important kind of like little caveat when it comes to imposter syndrome. But what I would suggest is that if you are wanting to become more confident, back to the very beginning of what I was talking about with this is that you need to become really clear on why. What is the thing that you want to be confident doing? Because if you have this kind of like vague sense of, I want to be a more confident person, I think what you're actually saying is, I don't want to be in discomfort ever. And that is not realistic. Let me, I'll rephrase that. It is only realistic if you're not willing to grow. If you are willing to just continue to do the same things that you've always done, then you will avoid, not completely, but you will avoid a lot of discomfort. But if you're committed to getting better, if you're committed to growing, if you're committed to learning new things, if you're committed to that internal work, you will have to be in discomfort sometimes. And what confidence is driven by a higher purpose, driven by a deeper why that says it doesn't matter that I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to go through the discomfort in order to achieve XYZ. So thank you for joining me for this episode of the PS We Expire podcast. If this was helpful to you, I would love it if you would give the show a rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And again, if you are interested in digging into this concept even more and discovering what your why is and learning some very practical techniques to let emotion move through your body, then please look into my new program, A Course in Confidence, on my website, morganmotsinger.com. And before we go, P.S.